Hello and welcome to Monday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, and today we're going to take a look at a puzzle by Glipperl that's been requested by several very good solvers on the grounds it's apparently impossible to solve, which is a little bit worrying. Glipperl has appeared on the channel before actually. Mark recorded a solve of a sort of cubic Sudoku. It was a very unusual idea. And I do remember I watched that video. Mark actually struggled quite a lot. He did get through it, but he had to resort to the dreaded bifurcation. And anyway, Mark has also suggested I have a look at this one, which probably means there's a degree of Schadenfreude involved. Anyway, I will do my best. You can see I'm wearing my Miracle Sudoku outfit today. These are the clothes I had on when I recorded one of our biggest videos, so hopefully that will bring me good luck. And also I'm trying to record this safe in the knowledge I might have time, if I do mess it up, to try a different puzzle in another video and still meet the 8:30 deadline. So we shall see. Now I have very exciting news before we get into the rules of Glipperl's puzzle, which is that Killer Sudoku, our new app, is out. It's definitely out on Android and Steam, and it should be out on Apple as well by the time this video goes live. So do have a look at it. We are so proud of it. I can say without fear of contradiction, it is the greatest collection of Killer Sudokus ever assembled. And if you do buy it and you do enjoy it, please do give it a nice rating, because that does seem to do or make a difference to how much it gets promoted by the various platforms. So it's a very exciting day for us. And also, I should say, look, I've got this reaction board that has been created by Andrea from Italy, and they've included some of my favourite phrases, and you can click on them and I make the noises. So I don't think that's going to work, but in terms of the video. But do have a look at this. I'll put a link to it under the under this video, and it's also, I've got a link on our Twitter at the moment. If you don't follow us on Twitter, you probably should do, because we tweet about all sorts of exciting things. Yeah, it's at Cryptic Cracking is the Twitter handle, and you can access Andrea's reaction board there. Thank you, Andrea, for making that for us. Very amusing. Over on Patreon at the moment, you know we've got Mark's crossword video, his latest solve of the Times Club monthly special. Free on Patreon, we've got the Modern Art collection. I did one of the puzzles from that yesterday. And of course, we have this amazing Sudoku puzzle hunt by Stefan Bura and Akash Jain. It's called Tracking the Cryptid. And I need to read you out the names of the new solvers, new successful solvers. Sam Webster. Well done, Sam. I'm so sorry I didn't get your email in time to announce that yesterday, which I believe was your birthday, so happy belated birthday. Frederick Hallenberg, Jacob Knowlton, and Mudit Mittal. Well done, all of you. Fantastic solving. And if you've not checked it out yet, do have a look. It is worth it. Now, let's get to the rules of Glipperl's puzzle. I have read these already. I do know what's in store for me. So we have normal Sudoku rules apply. Arrows indicate the sum of the digits along their respective diagonals, and digits can repeat on those diagonals. So that's standard little killer rules. So let's just run through what that means. That means those cells there have to sum to 25. And obviously these two cells can't be the same digit because they're in the same box of the Sudoku. But actually, for example, all those three cells could be the same digit. That would be fine, because that would fit with normal Sudoku rules, and it doesn't breach the little killer rules. So that's how the little killer Sudoku rule restrictions work. Now there's also a disjoint sets rule, which is it's a rule I worry about because it's so easy to miss things. But anyway, identical digits cannot be in the same position in different 3x3 boxes. So what does this mean? That means if this, for example, if that's a 2 in this square, now 2 cannot appear, well obviously it can't appear in these cells anyway because it's ruled out by Sudoku, but it also can't appear in these cells because these are within their 3x3 box. The top middle square is the equivalent of the top middle square in box 1. Now the reason it's called disjoint groups is that effectively means that when we look at the finished solution, if we highlight all of these squares in the top middle position of a box, we'll see every one of the digits 1 to 9 in the yellow squares. So there's not only these have to be different 1 to 9, these have to be different 1 to 9, these have to be different 1 to 9, but there's also this weird restriction which makes it impossible to scan the grid relating to different positions within the grid. So let's do another one. Those cells all have to be different digits, etc. So that's how we're going to have to solve this. Do have a go. Wish me luck with that. Let's get cracking and see what we can see now. So the first thing I'm doing, obviously, is I'm scanning the diagonals. I'm not immediately seeing anything interesting here. The way I do this is basically I look at the length of the diagonal, like this is a 5-cell diagonal. I divide the number by that number, so 25 by 5 is 5. And what I'm looking for is either an extremely high average or an extremely low average. And unfortunately, I'm not finding anything that is particularly useful. 46. 46 by 7. I mean, that's a slightly high average, but it's not nearly enough to be interesting. 34 there. 34 divided by 9. Again, it's a slightly low average, but not by much. So, okay. I'm not surprised. I really am not surprised. If so many people have struggled to solve this, it's not going to be resolvable by simply looking at a diagonal and saying, well, it adds up to this and that means we can just write it in. I'm not naive enough for that. So we're going to have to do some trickery. It's quite interesting, these 3 diagonals here. They do look... Well, they make me want to do this. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to highlight these cells and see if we can spot anything along those diagonals. So immediately now what I'm considering is boxes 1, 5 and 9. So can I somehow tie in these totals with the totals for boxes 1, 5 and 9? So if we look at this, we've got 64, 67, 117. So 117. What I'm quite tempted to do actually is to add the 11 diagonal and the 12 diagonal in, because that will get me closer to creating 3 complete boxes. It will double count this square and this square, but I'm prepared to do that. Let's do this. I will... and apologies if this turns out to be a complete red herring. These things happen, but this is where my brain is taking me. So now I had 117, 128, 140. So the purple squares add up to 140, except the green squares are double counted. Now, so probably we need to somehow tie in the purple squares, or whatever we do next, and the geometry to the disjoint set. So if I can narrow this down, see what I'm interested in here is if I deduct 3 lots of 45 from this total of 140. Can I leave myself with stuff that is in the same disjoint set? That is a good question. So the other thing we could think about actually is the 40 diagonal, That is also interesting, because that would complete. Yeah, I'm going to complete this as well. Now if we do that and that, so I've now gone up. I had 140, didn't I? So I've now got the purple squares are equal to 180, but I've double counted these 3 purple squares in that. So the green ones are double counted. And I've got 180. Right, now I'm going to deduct from 180 all of box 1, all of box 5, all of box 9. And if I do that, the reason for doing this, you can see I'm going to be able to just eliminate all of those squares, all of these squares, all of these squares, and these greens, which are double counted at the moment, are going to be single counted, so they're going to turn purple. This is a good idea. This is a good idea. I'm actually thinking I might be onto something here. I'm going to do that. I'm going to turn these purple. And now, the reason this is so cool is that these purple squares are in just 3 different disjoint set groups. You can see it's either a top right square, a middle square, or a bottom left square in every case. So, right, let's do the maths. So I had 180 minus, I took away 3 lots of 45, which is 135. So 45 is the total of these squares in the grid. But we don't have a free choice. We can, we're looking at a Monty Hall problem here in the sense that there is a restricted choice. If this square is a 1, I now can't put 1 in those 3 squares. So they all have to be different digits. Now, is it good enough? So in the top right-hand cells, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's all of them. So these squares could be a minimum. I'm thinking it's minimums of it. I hope that's not a surprise to anyone, simply because these squares, to make these, I don't know how many squares there are, in fact, how many are there? 13. To make these 13 squares add up to 45, we clearly are looking at small numbers rather than large numbers. So the minimum I can make those 4 squares would be 10 with 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now, middle squares, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 middle squares. So the minimum I can make those is 15. So we've got 10 and 15, 25. I still need... no good. It's no good. Now that is worth the bobbins, because that was a good idea. Oh, bother. Bother. I was sure that was going to be it. Because these bottom left squares, again, we can make those add up to 10 as well. So we've got, the actual minimum value I've got for the cells that I've just highlighted are 10 in the top right, 15 in the middle and 10 in the bottom left, which unfortunately adds to 35, not 45. Did I do the maths wrong? I'm just going to double check, sorry. So I had 64, 64, 67, 100, it is 117, isn't it? That's what I got last time, 117 plus 12, 129, 140, that's what I got last time. 140 plus 40 is 180. And then I deducted 3 lots of 45, which is 100. The maths is not wrong, I don't think. The maths does not lie. And we have to... I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Sorry, I think this is just a complete waste of time. I've had 13 minutes. I'm going to click this button and I'm going to click that and we're going to have to start again. I'm so sorry. I thought that was a really good idea. No. So we're going to have to... Well, literally, I'm going to have to start again. Okay, now, right, where do we look then? We have to look somewhere else. We're going to have to, and it's going to be some sort of trick where I've got to find how the disjoint sets interact with these little killer clues. That I am convinced about. So... how on earth do we get a grip on this puzzle? And which little killer clues are important? So what I need to do, I think, is to find little killer clues that cover the same positions in boxes. So if we think about this as a box, so the obvious ones I can see are this one, this one and this one, they all deal with the same 3 positions in boxes. So let's highlight those. Those are all either dealing with the top right, the middle, or the bottom left, although this unfortunately feels too like what we were doing just a minute ago. So these ones, on the other hand, are sort of the offset position. These ones, although these ones are sort of a hybrid, aren't they? Let's have a look. I think that's all I can do. I'm going to have a look. I'm going to highlight those in green. Okay, so let's stare at those. So we've got and then we've also got these down here, which is sort of, oh my gosh, this is really tricky, isn't it? I hate these clues now. I hate them. They don't seem to be doing anything apart from confusing my poor brain. So I really don't know what to do. I'm so sorry about this. This is not a great surprise to me, but the how do I link? How do I link what I've got on the screen to some sort of disjoint set restriction? That was a question. Unfortunately, my brain is not telling me the answer to that. Tell me the answer, brain. Why do you resist me so? If this diagonal's involved, I'm going to give up. This just... Come on, man, think. I apologise. Maybe it's obvious. Maybe people are looking at this saying, look, it's clear what you have to do. It's not clear to me, though. Can we... Thing is, all the ideas I'm having here, either dismissing them instantly or I'm thinking they're completely insane. So ideas like so what I'm wondering is, can I complete this box? So what do I mean by complete? See, it's a little bit of an interesting thought here. There's a difference between sorry, I'm being totally inarticulate because I'm trying to think about this at the same time. But what I'm wondering is, if I complete, yeah, okay. If I add X's to every box, I'll do these boxes just to show you why this might be interesting. If I add I'm actually thinking about adding X's to every box though. And the reason I want to add X's to every box is that then I know what the sum of all these X's is. Because the sum of every single top left position in the grid is the sum of the digits 1 to 9, which we know is 45. So if I add this, to every box in this Sudoku, I add these positions, I'm going to get complete boxes in boxes 2, 4, 6 and 8, which is good because that way I can just delete those by deducting 45 for each of them. But the thing that I'm thinking is not stupid is that these diagonals, the purple diagonals, actually overlap a lot with those x's. So if I do add these x's into the grid and then I deduct the purple diagonals out of the grid, I won't be left with so many cells. Right, does this make in any way any sense? That's the question. I mean, is it even worth doing? I'm going to do it. Actually, I've got nothing else to do. Come on, let's do it. How am I going to do this without losing track of it? That's the next question. Because it's going to get very confusing, because some cells, like this cell is included in the 25 diagonal. And then when I add an x to it, you can see it's being counted again. And when I deduct the 11 out, it's not being deducted again. So this cell is going to count for 2. Oh, good grief. Maybe I'll just do it slowly. Right, we'll just do the main boxes first, the boxes that I think I can actually understand. So if I was to add, what I want to do to start with is to add, I'm going to add x's, by which I mean the yellow squares, plus the x's in every other box, I just don't want to highlight them yet, to the whole grid. So I'm going to be adding 5 lots of the numbers 1 to 9 to whatever. Let's make these a different colour. Let's make those blue. Oh, yeah, okay, that's nice. So let's start. What do the green cells add up to? The green cells are 66, 106, 112, 140. That's the same number I had before when I looked at the other thing somewhere. That's a bit weird. Oh well, 140. So the green cells are 140. Now, what I'm going to do next is I am going to add to the green cells these 5 positions in every single box of the Sudoku. So I've made that very clear, obviously, with the blue cells in boxes 2, 4, 6 and 8. But please don't be misunderstanding. I am not just adding the blue cells in. In this box here, I am also adding those cells in. Okay, but the reason I'm not showing that explicitly is it's covering up the fact that I want to deduct out this 11, and it's covering up the fact this square is going to become tricky. So let's just bear with me. I am absolutely intending to add in each one of the top left cells in every position in every box. The top left cell is getting added in. The bottom right cell is getting added in. Okay, so that allows me to add 5 lots of 45 to my total of 140. But the moment I do that, the moment I add those cells in, I am going to deduct out of the grid the entirety of boxes 2, 4, 6 and 8. Because I know what the total of those 4 boxes is. It's 4 lots of 45. So now I'm left with 140 plus 5 lots of 45 minus 4 lots of 45. So that I can do. That is 185. So I only have to add 1 lot of 45 to make that work. Knowledge bomb from Cracking the Cryptic. Then I am going to deduct from 185. I am going to deduct. So now might be the time I need to start highlighting some stuff. So I have added this square to the grid for certain. That square is definitely added. So I will make that blue. cells like this have been doubled in value because I added it in the green and I added it again when I added the 5 disjoint sets which included this cell. So this cell needs to change colour. This is a double cell. This is just a single cell. These two cells are doubled because they are in a green diagonal and they are in those positions. So those have been doubled. This one is being deducted out entirely. This one is being doubled because it's in one of these positions and it's obviously in its green diagonal. This one is doubled. This one is doubled. These two are doubled. So at this point in proceedings, I told you this was going to be bad. We've got loads of doubled cells. That's a single cell. That must be a single cell as well because this cell has been added in. This cell has been added in. It's not been deducted out. Now, this is the thing I think might be interesting. Because I've added in my 185, I've now included every purple square because these purple squares are in the X's in each box. So now I can deduct them out again and they'll disappear. So I can turn them white. So all these get turned white. And all I have to do to make them turn white is to deduct out of 185 the 11, which is 174, the 40, which is 134, and the 12, which is 122. Now, don't forget all of these squares have disappeared because of the mathematics that I did. So all of those squares disappear. And now I've got an extraordinary relationship. I've got these cells, I've got the red cells times 2 because each red cell type is a double cell. The red cells times 2 plus one lot of blue cells is equal to 122. Now, this is beautiful. It's beautiful because all of these red cells are in the same 2 disjoint set groups, I think. They're either in the top left of a box or the bottom right of a box. Which means, and they must have to be massive, they must have to be massive to get to 122. So if we think about this one, that one, that one, that one, and that one all have to be different digits because of the disjoint sets rules. So the maximum I could make these would be 30 if I make them 6, 7, 8, and 9. The maximum... okay, so if they were 30, then I have to count them twice, so that gets me 60. Now these, the bottom right cells, could also be 6, 7, 8, and 9. Don't think there's any reason they can't be. So that would give me another 30, which needs to be doubled. So I've now got to 120 already. And I need to get to 122. So these squares, which can't be 6, 7, 8, and 9, but they could both be 5, which gets me 130. So this hasn't worked. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. This doesn't work either. Oh, this was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful logic. I was really proud of that. And it's got 8 degrees of freedom. 8 degrees of... It's got my lucky numbers degrees of freedom. It's not my lucky number anymore, is it? Oh, yeah. Am I going to have to restart again? Oh no. This is a nightmare. That was beautiful. Is there some sort of restriction which means these can't be 6, 7, 8, and 9? So let's have a look at that. Please. Does it interact somehow with the diagonals? that one maybe. Maybe, yeah, maybe that one. 41. So if I try and... No, there's still loads. It's still fine. It's still fine even... Well, you know, for example, if I went 7, 8, 9, there's no reason I can't go 7, 8, 9 there. I need to be restricting it on the low side, and I can't. Ah, the diagonal here, 34. Oh, now that's actually might be interesting. Ah, hang on. Let's try and use that then. Right. Sorry, okay, so we're on 122. That's our run rate at the moment. Now this diagonal, look, we actually know what the value of this diagonal is 34. Well, I can't see what this means, but I am tempted to deduct this out. Because if I deduct it out, my blue squares are going to turn white. My red squares are all going to turn blue, because at the moment these are doubled, and if I deduct the diagonal, these will therefore only be counted once, and these cells are then going to be deducted in reaching whatever the difference is between 122 and 34. So 122 minus 34 is 88. 88. Right, so let's do it. I'm going to deduct this diagonal out of the grid. So those two turn white. Let's make them white. These turn blue, because I only count them once. These turn a negative colour. What should we make those? I don't know why I'm spending so long thinking about the colour for the negative. Let's make them green. Green will mean negative in this puzzle. So now we know 2 lots of reds plus 1 lots of blues minus 1 lots of greens equals 34. And not 34, it doesn't equal 34, it equals 88. 88 is a very large number, actually. $88 is a very large number. So if I make the reds as large as I can, this would be 17, this would be 17, 34, but then I have to double 34 to get 68. So if I did make these as large as I can, I get 68, and the remaining cells would have to sum to 20, but they are also affected by, they are still affected by the disjoint sets. Ah, this is it, isn't it? This is it. I've got it. I've got it. I've not even got a digit, but I've got no degrees of freedom. Thank goodness. Look, because this, whether this is 8 or 9, obviously this therefore will be the other digit. Now look at this square and look at this square therefore. These can't be 8 and 9. Now whatever they are, they can't be the same either. They're in the top left-hand corner of the boxes. So the maximum I could make these two squares here, if these are 8 and 9, the maximum I could make those two squares is 6 and 7. But the same logic applies to these squares and these positions. So the maximum I can make those squares is 6 and 7. So I was on 68. I need 20 more. These squares are all a 6-7 pair. So these are 2 lots of 13, which is 26. But I've still got to deduct out 3 green squares, which cannot be the same number. So they have to be different. And if they're different, the minimum value they can have is 6, which is it, which gets me back to 88. So this is absolutely forced. And I might be able to do something now. Now, My goodness me, what an incredible... I mean, this is madness from Glipperal. Absolute madness. Maybe there's another way of doing this, by the way. That could well be the case, which is somewhat more straightforward. But this is... I mean, it's brilliant, but it is absolutely barbaric as well. No, now I've got a 34 diagonal. Forget the colours. Forget the colours. The greens and the blues, if I just add them up, add up to 32, don't they? These will be 13, these will be 13, plus another 6 is 32. So I've got digits. Those two squares have to be 1 to make the diagonal work. Which means we get the central square now, because now this can't be 1 and this can't be 1, and by the disjoint rules, therefore, this square must be 1, because this will be a 2-3 pair. And all of a sudden I've got 3 digits now. I've got 3 digits. I'm very proud of those. Now, what next? I have not got a clue. But please don't let it be as difficult as the start. What next? What on earth do I do with this information? Has it made anything less opaque? Still got no digits on these other diagonals. I've got some digits on these other diagonals. 11. The 1 is not on the diagonal. Oh, okay. Okay, well that I can see one thing, which is that I don't think you can put 8 or 9 in either of these squares. So 8 and 9 have got to be in those squares in box 1. Because obviously if this was 8, this could be 2, but then we'd need the 1. Now, does that matter? So, I don't know, not sure. I still don't really see how I can restrict the value of those squares. I mean, knowing that there's no 8 and 9, there's still flexibility in what we could include. Suppose we couldn't go 7, 2, 2, but the 7 could be here anyway, so I can't even assume the 7's in one of those positions. I don't know. We've got the same in the 12 cage. These can't be 8 and 9 either. So 8 and 9 have got to be... So is there a disjoint thing going on here then? That might be a sensible question. So can we assume something about how 8s and 9s interact in box 1 and box 9 using the disjoint set rules? And the answer is, I don't know. There's something sort of scratching my head here, and I'm not... I feel like... You see, the 30 clue is really restricted now. Well, it's not really restricted, but if there are 8s and 9s in this diagonal, it can quickly run into trouble. So, oh, you know what I could do? No, it doesn't work. I was just thinking, could I use the fact that these two squares can't be the same? So these are an 8-9 pair, and could I look into this box, therefore, and restrict where the 8 and 9 can go using that? But the problem is, it would be more useful in a way if they were the same. Oh no, hang on a minute. I've had a sensible thought. These are not the same, that's true, but that means those are the same. And if these are the same, they rule out so whatever is in these squares can't go in those two squares. So we'll have to go in those two squares. Now this is nice, because that means whatever goes in these two squares is forced into those two squares. So actually, in box 1, we know that either 8 or 9 are in those two squares, and either 8 or 9 are in these two squares. And the same must presumably be true down here as well. That one is the same as that one. Yes, it is this. Yeah, so let's actually look at this longhand just to crystallise my thoughts on this. If these did turn out to be 9, 9 would be forced into those two squares in box 1, and 9 would be forced into the opposite squares in box 9. And you can see that's going to force 8s in box 9 into here, and 8s in box 1 into here. Now, that means that this 30 diagonal does have an 8 and a 9 on it. I don't know where they go, but there's an 8 or a 9 in one of those two, and there's the opposite in one of those two. So there is 17 already in the yellow squares of the 30 diagonal, and so let's just imagine, for the sake of exposition, that the 8, 9 were here. They are not here, but I just want to show you what I think this means. That means if this was 8, 9, that would be 17. These 6 cells would then have to add up to just 13, which is a massive restriction. Using my trick of 13 divided by 6, that is close to 2, which is a very small number, especially when things like these two squares can't be 1. These two squares are in the same position in their box, so they can't both be 1 either. So this is really interesting. So we get a 1, 2 here as a minimum, a 2, 3 here as a minimum. That's already 8. So that means I need 5 more in the other 2 cells. Bingo, bingo, I've got it. I get to say bingo today, because these 2 squares can't both be 3. One of them has to be a 2 because they are in the middle of their box. If one of them is a 2, you can't put 1 or 2 in. If this one was a 2, you couldn't put 1 or 2 in those squares. So this has to be a 2, 3, 2 and 3, along with the 8 and the 9. So these are 1 and 2, these are 2 and 3. These squares, I'm going to get rid of the pencil marks in the corners, I think, because I now know that these are 2, 3, 8 and 9. And what's more, these are a bizarre quadruple, i.e. if this is 2, you then can't have 2 in either of those squares. So this is 2, 3, 8, 9 quadruple. And that matters for this. That matters for this, because now the 11 cage, we know that whatever this is, if this is a 2, there will be a 3 in one of those two. If this is a 3, there will be a 2 in one of those two. So in this 11 sum here, you can't use more than one digit, which is a 2 or a 3. You can't use a 1. So how on earth are you going to make this work? There's only one way. These have to be 4 and 5. If you can only use one of the digits 2 and 3, and that's it, then the minimum these two yellow squares could be is 4 and 5, and that requires you to use 2. So these are not 2, which means there's a 2 in one of... Yeah, so that 2 means this one is a 3. Now we can get rid of 3's in these two. We get the same restriction on the 12. Look at this. The 2 is in one of those two squares. So 1 and 2 are not available. The only way of making 12 work is 4 and 5. Now we've got 4's and 5's in those positions, which I'm going to highlight to try and keep track of the disjoint sets. Oh, that's not a very good colour. Purple. And okay, and I'm still in it. I'm still in it. Why is that a 9? That's not a 9, is it? I don't think I know that's a 9. I think that's a remnant of... I don't think I know that's a 9. I think that's a remnant of me saying if that was a remnant of me looking at how 9's would interact on this box. Yeah, I don't think I know what that digit is. I can't see how I did know what it was. That's confused me momentarily, but I'll recover. Now, let's carry on. Now, I've used the 11 clue. I've used the 12 clue. So what do I do next? Oh, I know one thing I can do. Simple deduction. Those two squares can't be 4 and 5 because of the positions in the purples. So those two have got to be 4 and 5, which means those two squares to complete the box are 8 and 9. Which means what exactly? So is this meant to use, am I meant to use the 53 diagonal now? If I know these are 9. Do I know something about the 53 diagonal? Because I know... Oh, I see. Yes, I do. I do know. I think these squares have to be 6, 7, 8 and 9, don't they? Because I know one of these is an 8 or a 9. I don't know which one, but it's an 8 or a 9. Now one of them must be a 6 or a 7, because those aren't 6 and 7, those aren't 6 and 7. I can only make this one of them. So one of these digits is an 8 or a 9, one of these digits is a 6 or a 7. Now, in here, that must be the same logic. Now the question is, can I repeat any of those digits? Well, we know I can't repeat the 8 and the 9 because we know the 8 and the 9 get allocated because of these 8s and 9s. Now if this is a 7, that's a 6, that's a 7, that's a 6. So these two digits are different, which is lovely, because that means whichever of 6 and 7 goes into these two squares, the opposite one goes in the other way. So this is 6, 7, 8 and 9. This is another weird quadruple, i.e. all of the digits are different. Now this might help with the 53 diagonal, because now I've got 30, 39, I need 14 into those squares, which is fantastically annoying because double 7 comes into play. Although double 7 can be ruled out, because if these are both 7, there's nowhere for a 7 in box 5, thank goodness. So double 7 does not work. So this is either 5, 9 or 6, 8. Now, can we get rid of anything else here? 5. 5's not possible, is it? Because of the disjoint subset rule. One of these two is a 5. Therefore, 5 can go in neither of those squares because these are the bottom left corner of their box. That's fine. That's correct. So this is not a 5-9 pair. So this is not 5-9. This is 6-8. Got it. That square. That square can't be 8. If this is 8, you can't put 8 in either of those squares. This is 9. This is 8. Come on. What does it mean? No. No, you're joking me. This must give me more than that. I'm almost begging, please. I don't think it does. Oh, what on earth am I missing here? The fact this can't be an 8 now is affecting the top right hand cells in each box. Well, these boxes already have their 8s and 9s in them. This one is literally doing nothing. It's literally doing nothing. This 8 and 9 are useless. That is frustrating. Right. Okay. So what am I meant to do? Is it the 40 diagonal now? Maybe. But I already knew these were 8 and 9 in some order. I'm not advancing the solve by thinking about that. These two squares are a 1-2 pair. Let's not lose track of that. I know it seems minor, and it might be minor. I don't like the colour there. I just want to keep track of everything that's sort of a disjoint subset pair, because this is telling me I can't put 1 and 2 in this position, for example. You can see I could never have put 1 there, but I can't put 2 there either. Are there any more cells like that? I don't know. Yeah, okay, but hang on. I have to put 1. I have to put 1 in the bottom left-hand corner of one of these boxes, but these 1s rule out the bottom left-hand corner of all those boxes, so 1 has to be there. It's like a weird, it's just a naked single, but I didn't spot it before. I think that's fine, isn't it? I think that's a sensible. Yeah, I have to put 1 in one of the positions. 1 has to appear in this position in one of these boxes, and the only one it can do is that one. So maybe it is the 40 diagonal I need to think about. Maybe... yeah, this square. This square is another one. This square is another naked single because of the 1-2 pair here, this can't be a 1 or a 2. It can be a 3. It can't be a 4 or a 5 because of the purples. It can't be a 6 or a 7, or can it be? It can't be a 6 or a 7 by Sudoku because of this 6. This is a 6-7 pair pointing at this square. Whoa! And it can't be 8 or 9 because 8 and 9 are in the box. That is a 3. So now, do we do Sudoku now, or do we do... if this is a 3, what is it telling us about the world? Where does 3 go in this box up here? It can't go in there by Sudoku. It can't go in the top cell because there's already a 3 in the top right of this one. So 3 is in one of those two cells. That's useful because now look, If 3 is in one of those two cells, where does it go in this box? It can only go here, which means that's not 3. So 3 moves over to the left-hand side of box 4. I'm sorry for going so slowly. I'm trying to map the disjoint subsets as I go because I'm so bad at this that I will probably miss something crucial and it'll be a disaster. This 3 is ruling out the 3 from that square. That's why I've done what I've just done here. In fact, this 3 is helping me with the middle box. Look. This square can no longer be a 3. So this is 2, this is 3, this is 3. And suddenly, a little bit of progress. That can't be 3 because of the 3 here. That's so strange. I did that by disjoint subset, whereas all I had to do was just scan along the row. Oh, the madness this puzzle is inducing. Now that can't be 3. This one can't be 3 because of the disjoint subset. So this is 3, that's 3. That's 3, and I've done all the. No, I haven't. I haven't done all. I have now done all the 3s. Right. Okay. Well, now 2s. Surely 2s can be mashed up somehow. How do we do 2s now? We do 2s by thinking about what. 2 is in one of those two positions. Do we know which? Yeah, we do know which one because of this 2. It can't be that one. These are in the same position in their box. So again, 2s are fruitful. Well, not again, but they are. So 2 can't. Oh no, see, that's the other thing. This shading is making me miss digits as I'm scanning as well. I've got to be careful with these digits as well. 1 has to be in either this cell or this cell. I think 2's still got 3 positions here. 2 in this box. Oh, no, 2 in box 7. That would be a sensible thing to ask. I think it can only go here, which I will take. That means 2's in one of those cells. Are either of these cells mapping onto some other 2 in the grid? That's the question. The answer is, I don't know. Hang on, let's look at these 2 squares. So one of those 2 squares has to be 2. Are either of these 2 squares mapping? Probably, but I'm just not spotting how. 2's in those squares. I think those 3 are all possibly 2's. And 2's up here, look. I feel like these 2's are... see, that one can't be a 2 because of this one. So 2 at least gets locked into... 2 at least gets locked into one of those 2 squares in box 3, which seems to eliminate it from those 2 and push it into that one, which is in the bottom right-hand corner of its box. That seems to give me this as a 1, which must mean that one becomes a 2 because of the disjoint subset rule there. This must be a 2 by Sudoku. And 2's suddenly seem to be a bit more fruitful. You can't put 2 in the middle of a box. So 2 must go over to the right-hand side here, which fixes the 2 up there. Keep going. Have I done all the 2's? I have. I've done all the 2's. Well done, me. 1 has to be in one of those cells. Look. And I'm so sorry for going slowly, but I hope you'll forgive me. This is a bit of a head scratcher today. 1 is fixed in that box. It's got to go here. That doesn't fix it down there. So 1's, I've done 6 of the 1's. One's in this box. Can't go here. Yeah, look. This can't be a 1 because there's a 1 there. So 1s are in these two squares, which means 1's not here, which means 1 is here. And now we've done really well with 1s as well. That's interesting. If that square's a 1, doesn't that break the 25? It does. It breaks it. It completely shatters it. Because if this is 1 plus 1 plus 3 is 5. So these two have to add to 20. Well, there's simply no way. So this is 1, this is 1, this is 1. And I think now I've done all the 1s. Okay, so the 40 diagonal now, that's catching my eye. I've got 22, 24. I need 16 into these three squares. That top square there is interesting because it can't be 1, 2 or 3. It can't be 8 or 9 and it can't be 4 or 5. So it has to be 6. This square has to be a 6 or a 7. This square, see, this square is less restricted. I haven't really got many central squares. I've got the 1, 2 and the 3, but I think that's it. So I don't know what that one is. I suppose it's got to be 4, 5, 6 or 7 though, because it can't, just by Sudoku it can't be 1, 2, 3, 8 or 9. 6, 7. And this one, that might be the same as that one, I think. Again, it's looking at the middle digit, isn't it? So that's a bit annoying. So what I think we're going to have to do is take a long, hard stare at this and try and pick off weak squares. What do I mean by a weak square? Well, I mean squares that are interfered with by some of these groups. For example, this square looks weak to me because it can't be 1, 2, 3. It can't be 6, 7, and it can't be 8, 9. So this square has to be 4 or 5, and that's nice because that gives us a 4, 5 pair there. Oh, it's nice, but it's not really helpful. That square's 6, 7, or 9 by Sudoku, therefore. But it's cells like this I think we're going to have to find. Maybe that one as well. Yeah, this is exactly the same restriction, look. Because this one, look, it can't be 1, 2, 3 in its box. It can't be 8, 9 because of the reds, and it can't be 6, 7 because of the blues. So that's 4, 5, which makes... And this is clever. Well, it is because now these 4, 5s are in the top left of their box, so I can shade those. That is a good restriction. We can now... We can now say with certainty that we can't put 4 and 5 in any top left position of a box, which is completely useless because every single top left position in this grid has already got a restriction applying to it that totally gave that away had we ever thought about it. But we do get a 4, 5 pair in the column. Oh, and there is an 8, 9 pair in the column, so those two squares are 6 and 7. Which... Oh, no, that's interesting. They're in the same position, look. So these are another of these weirdities. Make those yellow. Because now if I look at left-hand positions, oh yeah, hang on a moment. This is gorgeous. Look at column 7. Now, I've got to put a 6 and a 7. I've not put a 6 and a 7 in column 7. Where am I putting them? Well, I can't put them here because that's in the same position as these. So it would rule, if I put 6 or 7 here, you couldn't put one of those digits in these two squares where you need to put them. This is the same. This is in the same position, the middle left position of this box. So you can't put 6 or 7 in either of those two squares. So where are you putting them? Well, those two squares will have to be the 6 and the 7 in column 7. And that means that square has to be 6. And that one has to be 7. And now that might break the puzzle. That one therefore is bottom left, so that's got to be a 6. Now that means that there's no 7 in those two squares. So there is definitely a 6 in one of those two squares now. This 6 is giving me an 8 here. That 8 is seeing that square. That's a 9, that's an 8. We can then switch over the reds and fix those bottom squares. That 8's giving me a 9 here. This is now a 6, 8 pair. Now we know that this was a 6, 7, 8, 9 quadruple. So if that's 6, 8, these are 7 and 9. Let's just delete what's in those squares therefore. Let's delete what's in those squares and replace it with 7 and 9. So this square has to be 8. 8 has to go here by Sudoku. 8's in one of those two positions. They can't look. That's matching up with that square. So the 8 must go in this square instead. That fixes the 8 and the 6. That's not 6 anymore. Please keep going. This is where I get nervous. And I hope that you understand that. Solves like this do not come along every day. 4s and 5s now, look, in row thingy. Those have got to be 4 and 5. That gives us a 4-5 pair in 4-5 pair in this. Yeah, these are both in the bottom right, so I should also highlight these in purple, I think to keep the scheme going. 4-5 pair here, so this has to be a 6 or a 7 to complete the column. There's a 6 there. 7, 6. Oh, this is a 9 just by Sudoku. That fixes the 9 and the 7. That fixes this one's a 9. 9 must be almost doable. Yeah, 9 by Sudoku goes here. Now I can do this 25 diagonal. 19. Yes, 6 works. 6 is what it needs to be. 6 and 7 go in. That's not 7 anymore. Maybe this. Can I do anything with nearly with this one? Look. What have I got here? I've got 17. I need 11 in those squares. So this is 4, 7 or 5, 6. If it's 4, 7, the 7 would go here. This would be 4. If it's 5, 6, this one has to be either. This one has to be either. But there might be a restriction on one of these digits. Let's check the bottom squares of the grid. No. The right-hand squares of the grid. Of course not. This square, though, is a right-in. That's got to be a 7. Yeah, that's got to be a 7. Oh, 9. I've not done 9 in this box. That's a right-in as well. Let's put it in. This square's got to be 4 or 5. This has got to be 4, 5 or 7. Let's look at this diagonal now again, because this is the 40 diagonal. At the moment we've got 22, 22, 24, 30. I need 10 more. And I can't use double 5, because if I use double 5, those are both in the middle position of the boxes. So this can't be 5. This can't be 5. The only way of making 10 now is with 4 and 6, which tells us the order. 4 and 6 go in. That means that's a 5. That means that's a 7. That means this square, I think, is a 4 or a 5. That means that square's not 5. What did they have to add up to? They had to add up to 11. So if that's not 5, that's not 6. That gives us a 4-5 pair here, which gives me a 6 there. It's still working. Imagine if I break it now. Imagine the tears. 7 will go here now by Sudoku. That fixes the 6, fixes the 5. They had to add up to 11. I remember that. That should give me a 4 here. And it should give me an 8 here. This diagonal's actually done. I'm going to check it, because it's meant to add to 46. It adds up to 27, 36, 46. It looks good. That's a 5. This is a 4. That's a 5. That's a 4. Now this 5 is in that position, so that becomes a 4, 5. That becomes a 4, 5. This becomes a 5, 4. 5, 4. That becomes a 4, and this becomes 5. I think I've done it. Please. Yes. That is a really good solve. Oh, what a puzzle that is. That is just genius. I'm delighted to be. I'm delighted. I know it's taken me an age, but occasionally they do. And I'm not that embarrassed about the time for that one. I had one complete false start. But I did solve it, and yeah, what a puzzle, what a break-in. These disjoint groups, the way the constructors are using them now is terrifying. It's terrifying. But anyway, I hope you forgive me the length of the video, and I hope, well, anyone who managed to solve that, drop in a comment and tell me how long it took you, and tell me if there's a simpler way, please. Thanks so much for watching. Maybe that's worth a subscription if you enjoyed the video and you're not subscribed. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.